If you're looking for an off-meta deck to climb the Pokemon Pocket Ladder with, you've come to the right place. Today I've got a roundup of 13 different deck lists that are new that spiked community tournaments in the last week. Let's go ahead and dive on in to talk about what makes these decks sweet and potentially powerful. First up, we have Genetic Apex Pikachu with a 5-2 Swiss record in one of our community tournaments. This once format powerhouse has been out of the metagame for some time, but Pichu as well as Zeraora alongside Elemental Switch have given this previous Titan a little bit of new life. This is a deck list that actually wants to be going first because with Pichu or Zeraora plus Elemental Switch and a full bench, your Pikachu EX can start cracking for 90 points of damage on the second turn of the game, allowing you to knock out even something like an Eevee EX in one shot before your opponent has a chance to evolve it. We also get to leverage 2 copies of Oricorio that can start attacking similarly early into decks full of EXs, and against opposing copies of Oricorio, we even got a cheeky copy of Raichu that can KO it in a clean 70-point burst. I love the inclusion of Zapdos EX in here as well as a payoff that really lets you leverage Pichu when going second. You can start hitting on Thundering Hurricane for the second turn of the game with any of your energy acceleration, dealing on average 100 and swinging as high as 2 in a single blow. Another Pikachu deck with a similar shell finished 8-3 in another one of our community tournaments, which really makes me think that this core of Pichu, Zeraora, Elemental Switch, and then potent Lightning EXs is a package that's going to be here to stay. It's going to be interesting to see what exactly is the optimal mix. Is it a Pikachu split like this? Is it Tapu Koko? Is it Zapdos EX? What are the ideal things to be attacking with ASAP? But this lightning attack sooner than we're supposed to core that can really love going first that a lot of decks don't enjoy in pocket seems like a territory worth exploring more. Another deck list leveraging a similar idea is this Arceus Resilience Link Raichu mashup that went 7-2-1 in the tournament that it was played in. One upside to this build as opposed to the previous one that we looked at is this more elegantly goes 1 point into finishing on an EX at the end. One of the liabilities these powerful baby Pokemon have is that they are pretty consistently giving up a knockout point in exchange for the strength that they're generating, and being able to follow up a Pichu KO with a Raichu that can work down your opponent's Pokemon while also being difficult to kill thanks to Resilience Link, and the fact that Spark deals damage to your opponent's bench makes Cyrus super potent. Arceus can really struggle into some of the larger things that 130 doesn't clear in one, so hitting it with a couple of Spark hits and then dragging it up with Cyrus so you can clear it in one go is a really clean breakpoint exchange in a number of your matchups. I also absolutely love that because Raichu EX evolves from Pikachu just like regular Raichu does, you get to play this split where when it's ideal to be using the Resilience Link Raichu, you could do that, but you can also have your Pikachu turn into a finisher if Arceus is nowhere to be found or can't quite close the job out itself against something like a Stoke Charizard. Another core leveraging the Zeraora Pichu Elemental Switch acceleration is one featuring Dragonite EX. 180 points of damage is a massive amount to deal in a single burst, and our supporter Lyra actually means that you can attack with Dragonite 2 turns in a row. Because Lyra's effect doesn't count as your retreat for the turn, you can Lyra out an injured Dragonite, go to something that retreats for free like Pichu or Cleffa, and then retreat back to the Dragonite, clearing the downside of that Giga Impact, similar to how the Bug Beat Bob and Weave works inside of the Ultra Beast decks. Something that's curious with this build as well is you can actually even get rid of the energy variance that 2-color decks can have by playing only water energy in your zone, and then depending on Zeraora and Pichu to provide the lightning energy for you in your games. This deck list finished 8-2 in the community tournament that it was played in. Another interesting Dragonite shell leveraging Pichu as an acceleration is this one playing Sylveon, not only for added consistency, but also getting to splash a copy of Jolteon alongside your regular Dragonair for clean answers to opposing copies of Oricorio that could otherwise stonewall your Dragonite. I really like that those two also allow this archetype to go 1 point Pichu into 1 point Jolteon and to finish on Dragonite in key spots as well. This deck list went 5-2 in the Swiss rounds of the tournament that it was played in. Next up, we have Pichu, Zero Aura Elemental Switch, accelerating Ho-Oh EX, as well as Arceus to attack ASAP. One of the things that's kind of nice about the Zera Aura as an energy accelerator is it also gives your deck list an organic tool for attacking opposing copies of Oricorio. This means you can lean on things like Ho-Oh, Lugia, and Arceus as your big hitters in all your other matchups without diluting what your deck is actually bringing to the board. I also like that this deck list is playing a split of Lugia and Arceus as its finishers, as Lugia is really stellar against opposing EX decks, things like Charizard, where one big hit is enough to win the game, whereas Arceus is really going to accelerate against decks that are focusing around one knockout point Pokemon, like Sylveon, where Lugia would normally need to attack 2 or even 3 times to get the job done, which is incredibly difficult since Elemental Blast discards a bunch of energy every time you use it. Another interesting angle to come at the baby Pokemon from is in a Flareon Eevee box style shell. You have Sylveon here as a way to draw your cards a little bit more consistently, and then Magby allows you to get Flareon EX attacking on the second turn of the game for that 130 points of damage that churns out KOs very, very quickly. You get to combine this with Eevee Bag, so you can clear things like Darkrai in a single hit, or Giratina alongside Red, and you have a very efficient, aggressive shell that's also hyper consistent since you have 4 basics to evolve your Flareon from. We have one copy of Baby Flareon in here as well, not only for consistency's sake, but also as a way to clear Oricorio out when it rears its ugly head. This deck list had a very impressive 9-2 record in the tournament that it was played in. Another deck list leveraging the power of baby Pokemon energy accelerators is this Magby Ho-Oh Celebi variation. Celebi notably flips a coin for every energy on it, not just explicitly the grass ones, meaning if your Ho-Oh can charge it up once or even twice, you're going to be flipping an immense number of coins for a large damage output range. The upside to playing Celebi as your Ho-Oh payoff as opposed to Lugia is twofold. The first is that you're not giving up the energy that you attach every time you attack, meaning you're much better against one knockout point Pokemon decks. And the second is that in the games where you don't have Ho-Oh, your Magby can just chuck extra energies on the Celebi leading into it as well, giving you 4 ideal setup Pokemon that you're looking to start on for your payoff. The singleton copy of Stantler in here, I assume, is this deck's choice of tool for clearing out your opponent's copies of Oricorio when they show up. This particular deck list went 5-2 in the Swiss rounds of the tournament that it was played in. Another Celebi deck had a 4-2 run in the Swiss rounds of a community tournament, and it was kind of a reminder that Exeggutor EX is a card that can end a lot of games before it starts. I played a little bit of this card this season in highlights on the channel, and there's so many times where hitting heads on this card wins the game on the spot or close to it. When we combine this with Will to get that guaranteed 80 some amount of the time, I would wager this deck's probably a pretty solid laddering deck for closing things out. You also have a Lowen Exeggutor here, which in tandem with Growth Spurt Execute can get 150 damage on the second turn of the game, guaranteed alongside Will. Because your lead Exeggutor EX doesn't require a lot of energy, there's a copy of Celebi here as a means to build up in the back with your other energy, and then because everything is grass, you get to play Leaf Cape alongside Erica to have lots of extra sustain. This Gallade EX Hitmontop core actually put up a handful of results across varying community tournaments in the last week, and I think this shell is a testament to why I've really been loving this latest expansion in Pokemon Pocket so much. Hitmontop is just a solid rate card that supplements this previous powerhouse well, allowing it to be a little bit more powerful. Previously, this shell played Hitmonlee and things like Farfetch'd or Hitmonchan as cards to be decent leads while you build up Gallade behind, and Hitmontop is kind of a split of those, allowing you to get a little bit of damage on their lead Pokemon while also softening up something on the bench. Really solves the problem that Gallade doesn't hit quite hard enough in key spots, so getting those chip shots in is key, especially in tandem with Cyrus to allow you to pull them up to the front ahead of time. This archetype gets to leverage things like Lily for a little bit of extra sustain as well, since our finisher is a stage 2. It's pretty rare these days to see a Stage 2 deck with no copies of Candy, but Magnezone is definitely the poster child of a Stage 2 that's not interested in playing that card. The Volt Charge on your Magneton, allowing you to get those lightning energy attached, is key to this archetype finding success. And one of the beautiful things about this particular build is you can play lightning energy as well as psychic in your energy zone, since Magnezone provides its own electric, meaning that your Sylveon isn't just a consistency piece here, it also is a card that can be attacking should your opponent be able to get through your Magnezone and Oricorios to start. I also absolutely love the singleton copy of Elemental Switch in this deck, because if you lead on Sylveon or Oricorio, you can push an energy up off that Magneton on the second turn of the game to allow you to get cracking for big points of damage super early. This particular deck list went 10-3 in the tournament that it was played in. Gyarados EX is a card I've had on my list to get back around to trying in this metagame since it dropped, and I was super excited to see this deck list post a 4-2 Swiss record. I think the 140 points of damage on a stage 1 is a pretty solid breakpoint in a lot of things that are running around, but 4 energy is definitely nothing to scoff at. You need Mana Fee to have a little bit of extra energy going on, and this is another core where having Elemental Switch means that you can get attacking with Gyarados that much consistently early. We see Suicune making its first appearance in one of these roundup videos as well, since its 3 energy attack isn't too much when you have Mana Fee to be hitting it ahead of time. It dealing 70 points of damage is a clean breakpoint into opposing copies of Oricorio, which I would wager is the primary use of this tool here. Last but certainly not least, I am legally obligated to talk about Gengar anytime it puts up anything resembling a reasonable result. These 20 cards finished 6-2 in the Swiss of one of our tournaments in the last week. You're going to need to leverage Sylveon as a consistency piece as well as an occasional attacker since you're playing Psychic Energy. And I must say, I absolutely love the inclusion of Tyrogue in this build as well. I played Slappy Knuckle in a few decks, and getting to get chip shots in when you're going first feels quite powerful. This deck list is also playing a split of Baby Gengar and Gengar EX, which means the big downside to these baby Pokemon, like I've talked about a couple of times in this video, is that when you give up that first knockout point, you can follow it up with another 1-pointer and then eventually close out in either Gengar or Sylveon EX, going 1-1-2, which is a pretty ideal structure. I think today's new decks roundup video does a phenomenal job of highlighting something I've said a lot of on my live stream recently, which is that the baby Pokemon designs in this latest expansion are one of the best groups of designs the Pokemon Pocket team has done to date. They did such a phenomenal job of posing a ton of really interesting deck building questions with cards that are powerful, but not from a strictly power creep sense. They allow you to approach the early turns of the game in a way that's very different than other things that have been running around, giving you a powerful payoff when you structure your deck in order to maximize their effects. As always, I would love to hear what you've been finding success with in the comments down below. I'd love to know what deck lists I should consider trying out on the live stream to maybe get featured here at some point in the future. If you enjoyed today's roundup, make sure you smash the like button and be sure you're subscribed to the channel to not see the best of these decks in action over the course of the next week. As always, I appreciate everybody that made it all the way through to the end of the video, and I hope your next Pocket Pack is an excellent one.